And just know that you have to make room. You have to make room for this other person because if it's just you and your kids, well, I got something for you. Wait till your children are grown before you interrupt someone else's life, please. And even then, be prepared that you still have to make sacrifices if you want somebody there next to you. Good evening and welcome back to another episode of the Purpose and Powerful Podcast. I'm your host, Erica Lester, along with my co-host,
The Real Jabril.
That's right. Good evening. We have Miss Tanya back with us as we present tonight blended dating, the child package. So, what exactly are we talking about? We're talking about maybe you don't have children and you're considering, or maybe you're presently dating or have dated someone with children, or you're the one with the children and you're dating someone that does not have children, or maybe they do have children and you're trying to figure this thing out together. Well, first of all, it's a couple of things that you may want to consider. That person's built up their family model to where their children pretty much come first. And so that's not a position that you're going to be able to have. So that's something to understand. Now, it's something that you work together towards finding that balance because if you feel like you're not a priority, you're not going to stay in the relationship. And if you feel like the children will always be the priority, then that won't be good for your relationship. So you have to treat that relationship, every party in it, whether it's the children, the dating couple, as a priority overall. And you need to have some very open and honest discussions about parenting, discipline. What do you do when that child says, "You're not my mom, you're not my dad"? Like you have to be prepared for those types of things. I know Jabril shared with us on previous shows where that was pretty hurtful, pretty painful. So we are going to be very transparent and delicate as we approach this topic. And we're here to be real. That's what we do. So if you're very sensitive, just stick around and learn something. That's what I would say to you. So I'll let our co-host, the real Jabril, take the lead because he has actually had experience on being on both sides of the coin.
Well, I mean, hey, welcome everyone. I guess that I could start off by saying on both sides, I have a daughter. My daughter now is 19, but out of my first marriage, I was separated and my daughter was about 5. So I had a little girl with me and I would use it to my advantage. I mean, just to be honest, because I was single. So where I would go to stores and stuff, we would first get free food because she was a cute little kid and she was sweet. So people would treat us nice. But I started noticing that women would come to me because I had a daughter and they looked at it as the cutest thing. So I really was rewarded for being a good dad, as they call it. And most women, from my experience, really were very accepting because most women that I knew or met had a child and had at least one, if not 3 or 4. So for me to only have one and be taking care of my daughter on the weekends made me look like a superstar and it made me feel like a superstar. I wasn't much I could do. And I mean, it was fun for a while. I mean, then you meet someone who has has more than one child. So it wasn't the same. So when we would go out, it was like my daughter and 4 other kids. And I mean, then maybe they had different fathers. So then you got these phone calls. It could get a little tough. And I think in previous episodes, I was talking to one lady in particular who had 3 who I had gotten really close with. And not only did she have kids, she had a little dog, and that dog even turned on me. So it was the 3 kids and the dog. And I I mean, like I said, we're being transparent. So that was tough. And they were the first, whenever they didn't get their way, "You're not my daddy." And I mean, that was their go-to. And it came off of things where having different habits in terms of hygiene. If a kid uses the bathroom, they didn't use the bathroom, I wanted to say something, whether it was my child or not. I would say that to anyone. So that was something that was always an issue. And I wasn't really allowed to say those things. However, I did have haircut skills. So when it got time for them to get a haircut, then everybody wanted to be my friend for that the other Friday to cut their hair. But after they got their haircut and the fresh shape up, you're not my daddy. So it was kind of, it wasn't a good feeling. And I think that if the mom, if the mother probably wouldn't have would allowed us to have our own relationship maybe and not try to take sides, it probably would have been easier or let me be in that place. And my daughter, so it almost felt like my daughter and I were on the outside. So I would try to also get my daughter to stay over, but she didn't feel comfortable. And the little dog, might bark him. I mean, it was a tough little dog. I mean, I don't know what was going on with that part, but the whole thing it didn't feel like a blended family. It wasn't that Brady Bunch thing that you see on TV at all. And hated going. She didn't even want to stay for dinner. And so I had to make some decisions and move on as a result. And then another situation, I think that another woman had multiple kids as well, but that situation, my daughter didn't even want to go around at all. So she never really got to see that. She heard about it, but
So, Jabril, did you ever have a situation where you dated a young lady that did not have children while you had your daughter?
well, right. Well, my current wife, Takesha, didn't have any children, and I think she had a rule that she didn't want to marry anyone or get with someone who had a child. She did. I mean, she didn't really tell me that off the break, but hey, who's going to say that? She didn't say that. However, and I used to say things like that until I had a child, but it really wasn't a woman having a child. It was the way the child acted or children acted, because I'm not really dealing with the child all the time. It's the person. I'm not dating the child. It's just that when you use the child as a scapegoat or as a pawn on certain things, that's when it gets a little complicated. Well, Keisha got along with my daughter. They had a natural relationship, and because my daughter didn't like that we were getting close so fast, even though my daughter and I weren't that close. All of a sudden, my daughter wanted to be close. I noticed. Yeah. And so she made it as if I deceived her, but we weren't really communicating at the time, my daughter and I. I knew that Takesha was thinking about wanting to have a child, but this was the next best thing. Had a daughter. They got along. They both love church. I mean, they love church. I love church, but they love church. It's a difference. I think some of you women know what I'm talking about. I like church. They love church. They could talk about that, pray in tongues, do all kinds of stuff, real cool, and talk to each other in tongues. And I just watched all that. I thought that was really cool. So they had a great relation. They have a great relationship. But that was interesting because that's when Takesha realized that maybe it would be okay to date somebody or get close to someone who had a child. But it was nothing I ever hid. I mean, I never had my daughter. Again, in most cases, if you're a father, showing that you are a proud father, women do really love that. That, to me, that's top on people's list. I mean, I'm serious. I'm not going to even, you don't have to have a college degree and you say you have a child and you're taking care of your child. Women, sex. So going to church, having your child, holding her hand or his hand, picking them up from school. Oh, man. I mean, I don't even, I was just doing these things naturally and people would come up to me. And so it was great to see it. And it's unfortunate that there's so many men out here who are not taking care of their lovely children. And right. See that. So it makes you already know that it's a shortage of men, but just think of good fathers. And then the women you're dating didn't even have a father that was like you. So it just really attracts you and puts you in a whole different category.
Absolutely. So as a woman who has dated a man with children, like your wife Takesha, I had sort of somewhat similar rule about dating men with kids. So the older I became and the landscape of dating seemed to change, I was a little more open to the possibility. And here's how my mindset was about that. I said, well, you can't test whether someone's a good father or going to be a great father unless they already are one. And I would also look, even when I was dating men that did not have children, because I have a lot of nieces and nephews, 23 of them, by marriage, 17, if you don't count those. But because I have a large family that's filled with a lot of children, I always looked at how they treated my niece and nephew to help indicate how they would be with children.
Right.
You know, I would say I've been really blessed because my nieces and nephews are really, and I'm not saying this to be, like egotistical or whatever, but I have really great, well-mannered nieces and nephews, and they know what's up. So no one could fool them and act like they could just come buy a few gifts and whatever. Um, it will really show if you don't love children, if you're dealing with them. And even if you didn't really like children, you really like them, because of the way that they have been raised and trained and different things like that. Plus, I always said that I was this auntie mom. I'm very involved in their lives. So it would be as if they had to deal with them because I would have them all the time. It's nothing for me to have had them for the whole summer or something like that. My nephew that lives in Maryland, I would get him for like the whole summer. So they would have to know that these children were very integral and a part of my life. Now, when I did decide to date men that had children, I looked at how involved he was in his children's life. I didn't need him to be a babysitter. I needed him to be very involved at the PTA meetings, talking with the teachers, being a part of homework, showing up at extracurricular activities, concerned about their grades. Like I looked at the entire gamut. And one thing that I told one of my exes that had those 5 children was, I will never be responsible for something or someone I don't have authority over. So, AKA, I can't help you raise your children financially if I could not discipline them.
Mm.
So, no,
Right.
I'm not going to be compartmentalized on the fringes and bring the benefits. I bring the entire package.
Right.
So, if you have a problem with me disciplining them, I don't have to be in their life at all. Like I was very upfront about that, so that he can understand when we have our children, it's not going to be a separate discipline metric either. Like,
Right.
raise your kids for this, and then my child's getting this special treatment. If I could not bring that same level of discipline to your children so that it would be a consistent path for mine, then we didn't even need to go any further. Like, we won't have it where they could do things that I would not allow my child to get away with, or treat
Right.
me like, or say, yeah, huh, and all that. No, like,
Right.
and it wouldn't be something they'd have to figure out. Again, I've always treated my niece and nephew as my children, so they would not have to guess about my parenting style.
Right.
They saw
I
it.
just, there are certain things that I said, okay, these are conversations we either rope your mom or dad in, and then we partner together on those particular issues. But for all intents and purposes, this is my child. Any niece or nephew would tell you that the discipline was like, no, we're at auntie's house, we're at auntie mom's house. This is how it rolls. She don't play. That would be the thing. But definitely, it is not you have to be very serious. So dating somebody to be dating somebody is one thing, but dating someone with children is a whole other thing, just completely different.
Absolutely. Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
I agree.
So Miss
Um,
Tanya, I mean,
She
you
looked like
you
she.
have a child or children, actually, I'm sorry.
it's
Yeah,
already,
children. So how was that being both ends for you?
both my experience as far as me being single with 2 kids, raising a boy to date who doesn't know his father, and then my daughter whose father was involved from day one. Anybody that I would consider dating, I always made sure that they understood that well, first of all, I gave it a length of time before I would allow them to be a part of their lives or be introduced to them. Secondly, I what I saw when I would date guys is that they would go more towards the little boy because they felt like they were filling a void because his father, wasn't present. I don't know. I guess at that time I was more protective because my son is adopted. So I was more protective of the fact that I didn't want my son to get attached to someone that wasn't going to be there always. So I was just very careful with that. Um, my daughter, because she was the only child, um, as you experienced, Jabril, she would get jealous, very jealous of her mom's attention being given to someone else. That was hard. That was really hard because it for up until she was in third grade, it was me and her against the world. So now all of a sudden you got this person coming in, and I don't. They're not supposed to be a part of our puzzle because it's in her mindset our puzzle was whole. My experience that where it actually merged families together, the children were grown. And that's a totally different experience. They were grown children whose mother had passed away unexpectedly. They knew their mom and dad together for 25 years, and then their dad stayed single for 7. I was the first woman he dated after the death of his wife. And his issue was I was always trying to establish relationship with them. In his mindset, the children had been mothered. So he needed someone for him. Because his kids, I'm talking about like they're over 20, they're 25, 27. And once I was able to get him to understand why that needed to happen, we needed to become friends because they needed to understand. I wasn't trying to take the place of the mother they had. I only know to be me, and I'm a good friend to have. And so it's crazy because today, even though our relationship ended, I'm very close with his children. Like we're super close. And when he was part of the story from, how they in the church, he was part of
Oh,
it.
he was part of
Yeah,
it when he was in the mix.
yeah.
So you met him in the church.
Yes. Yes. So
The drummer,
um,
he wasn't the drummer, was he?
no,
You
that's
guys
that
have to go back to episode to see that. You don't
yeah,
miss that.
because the drama was drama. And so yeah, that's a good episode to have.
Drummer was drama.
The
Uh,
drama was drama, yes. But with him, you know, and I alluded to it on the other episode was the fact that when he went away, he didn't tell me that we weren't getting married. But the funny thing was, is he met someone and he did get married. So this woman's personality was totally different from mine. She was very quiet. She was very reserved. She was very submissive. Not to say that I wasn't, but I was very outspoken. Yeah, I was very outspoken. And so we actually got to have a conversation, and he was like, my kids are struggling to get to know her because they're trying to make her be you.
But it's interesting that you share this, and I'm going to just say this to you, and say this to you too, Erica, and all women out here listening. If you love yourself, then be yourself,
Yes.
because you can't be anybody but you, and it's going to come out later. So if you are outspoken, always understand this. And somebody taught me this in my first marriage and marriage counseling. What a man loves about you will also be the thing that he doesn't like about you. But he wish that woman, the things he was trying to get away from, he knows that those values and that standard is what he needs for his children and for him to hold him accountable and help him grow as a man. Even though he's older than you weren't going to back down. So when we think about something being easier, it makes us weak. And I can tell you for a fact, even if you go into the gym, you know that you should be lifting 30 pounds, but you go to the 10 pounds because it's easy. You got
Right.
muscle mass built up on that. You just playing games. You can't come out flimsy. So now he's in a flimsy situation. And I'm not talking against him, but he needs
Right.
a stronger woman who will stand up, because it's good when you have that person by your side. It can be irritating, but at the same time, when they're on your side, it's even better. And he just wasn't able to handle that, so he went for the easier route, which now he's paying.
I agree.
And he does too, but it's hard to, now you can't go back and beg and say I was wrong. So, he's saying it's the kids and all of that, because if it's about the kids, he wouldn't have left to begin with. You hear that, right? So really,
Heard that.
using the kids as the Did he ask the kids, should I leave? Did he think
No,
about them then?
no, he did not.
Now. So why now? He wanted the easier fruit.
Right.
He wanted some like a grape. He
Mm-hmm.
wanted processed raisin, all shriveled up, and that's what he got.
And
And that's all stuck in his teeth, like a raisin.
listen, hush, because you about to make me run. You are so right.
Yeah, sun dried, You know what I
Mm.
mean? All chewy and sticky. He had a nice ripe organic grape
He did, and he did.
with
See,
real
that's
seeds, a real woman, a real organic. Wanted the process dried out, easy because you can just get them off it and you put them in the box, put them away. But with a real grape, you got to keep it fresh. You got to put water on it. You got to make sure it's cooked, keep it in the refrigerator. But something that has an expiration date for 2 or 3 years out, anybody can do that. You can take that and come as you go. Get ready for the person who's ready for that grape.
okay. I'm getting ready. I promise you.
All right.
Eric, you better tell him.
If you love yourself, be yourself.
Be myself. Yep.
So we've done it kind of fluffy. So what were some of the challenges, arguments, or drawbacks that you encountered when dealing with the children that gave you pause? Like Jabril was like, you know what, that really hurt, and it stayed with him. He never got over that. And he even said that she said, you can get out.
That was tough.
So, yeah. So talk about when you encountered that, how it made you feel and how you repositioned. And if that was the thing that really was your undoing at the end of it.
You talking about me? You saying how I?
Yeah, in general. So like the first time you heard that you can go, this is me and my kids,
Mm.
When I first heard that, I said, fine. I mean, because you also didn't have privacy. I mean, if we were in the bedroom, sometimes you leave the door open, kids busting in the door, dog might jump on the bed. I mean, so it got to a point where I didn't feel like I had that respect. And I already knew before she said that I could get out. And it was just a matter of time. It was more of a permission to build it up, to not feel bad when I was ready to make that move, because the disrespect wasn't there. Like I said, even when you got the dog disrespecting you, that's not. So
Right.
I mean a little dog. You talking about the dog would turn on me. I try to give him some extra food or something. He cool with me for a second, then he turn on me. So again, these are things that happened at the time. I'm glad I'm out of that, because I am a real grape. I'm not a raisin.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm even a plum.
I think one of the drawbacks for me was my daughter was a single parent at the time that my relationship started. And according to what he knew of his daughters at the time, he was under the impression they were all virgins. So he compared, like his daughters was better than my daughter. And that was a continuous argument in the beginning. And I also noticed that because he was so adamant about his stance on, quote unquote, my daughter being involved with premarital sex, I started making sure he was able to see the flaws that his daughters actually had, that he was just basically blinded by because those were his babies. Like, no, your daughters aren't any better than mine. I think it could have gotten worse because I am so outspoken, and I could have made it, really, really bad. But my thing was back up. A drawback would be, especially when people are trying to date and they have children, is the fact that there's differences, like Erica mentioned earlier, that people will, and sometimes they may say they don't see it, but if you are the person that's dating someone and you feel like you see that there's a difference, make sure that you voice it. Make sure that you bring it to their attention even if they say that's not what they're doing, because your perspective is your reality. And it happens. So that was one of my drawbacks, is the fact that the person thought that at that time in the very beginning that their kids were better than my my daughter, and that wasn't going nowhere.
No, that's definitely not a good situation. You're talking about competition as opposed to collaboration
Yes.
and complimenting each other. So that could hurt her esteem, and she already wasn't welcoming to the whole blended thing. So
Yes,
to look
exactly
down
right.
on her and treat her that way, and it's very difficult for she to turn the other cheek when somebody is sitting on her face. So I don't think that was good.
Right. I like that analogy you just gave.
Really? What was that? I said,
When you said it's hard to turn the other cheek when somebody's sitting on your face.
it's true.
Because
Because a couple of things that somebody can do when they're sitting in your face.
exactly right. And if I feel like listen, because if I feel like I'm getting smothered, I ain't turning the cheek. I might.
But understand, you talking about they sitting on your face, and don't say,
Yes.
excuse me. And that's right.
It,
So don't even treat your daughter like that.
You talking to the choir, sir. I appreciate you.
Right. So remember, you're the grape.
Yep.
You're the great.
And that's all capitals. Okay, Erica, proceed.
Well, I would like to say one of the other drawbacks being the person that you are not the one with the kids. You are along for the team. My thing was this. He had a parenting plan with his ex-wife, both ex-wives. One of his daughters with special needs. So that would always be a child in that way, of some, in some respect. So then we're just fine. So then he had two, one middle schooler, one high schooler. So I knew that involved living in another state, 15 hours away for at least 6 to 7 years until the younger one graduated, which I was all for. I was fine with that. I'm like Tanya said in the last show, you have prepared your life and other people will be impacted by the changes that you make in order to be in that relationship. So it's very serious. And I just need you to talk to me. Well, in so doing, I got that he had his children on a rotating schedule. So he would have them, let's say Wednesday through Sunday, then he'd rotate off, Tuesday through Thursday or Friday or whatever like that. And that was all good. I knew the schedule and all of that. So when Saturday would come, now mind you, when the days he didn't have them, we went on trips, we went on dates, we traveled to go see each other, all those things. And for me, I was pushing it harder than he was that we needed to have a meeting. Here we're talking about getting engaged. I was like, we can't get engaged until we have the meeting with children. I don't even need to meet your exes. I don't care nothing about them. That's not our life, and we don't want any drama. So, but you need to make sure that before we go down this path, that there is some introduction so you can see the interaction. So we made it to where he came here and we went to the beach and it was amazing. And I brought two of my littles with me that were around his son's age, his youngest one, so that we would be able to interact, see how they interacted together since they would be going on summer trips and things like that, how the interaction was with me and him, and then having his dad there and then all of us there and see what that looked like, And then I came there and we had like a weekend and we went on a trip together and all that. So there were these interactions, but I had to push the issue, which made it very uncomfortable. But it was like, if we are serious, we need to make this happen. And so then outside of that, the only other issue I ran into was this. And this is something to consider, ladies or men, if you're going to be dating with the person and you're not the one with the children. Okay, hear me and hear me clearly on this. I got that he was going to spend all the day with them. So I was not trying to have him expense himself out all day and then, okay, he got to give me all this octane. But what I did expect is, no matter what you can give me, you give me your best. So he would be gone all day. And as the children got older, because we were together 30 months, then that meant they were going to be staying up later. So putting them in the bed wasn't really putting them in the bed anymore. It was getting later and later and later at night. And so then I wouldn't talk to him. He would spend all his time. He was never making this interaction for the time of interruption. How you doing? How was your school week? How's the day going? Where we would have that camaraderie, right? With me and the kids and him and all that other stuff. And then, so I kind of had to force that into the situation so that they would know that it wouldn't just be the two of them or the three or four of them, when they were with him. Like I had to build a space that they knew that I would be a part of this situation. So long story short, he's been gone with them for 16 hours for the day and he's exhausted at night. We're on the phone Friday night, Saturday night, or whatever night that was. And he got 15 minutes for me. Now, in the 15 minutes, you better be like, babe, I miss you. How was your day? Tell me about what's the best thing of your day? Yeah, I want to hear smiles and teeth showing and all this. I want him to work that 15 minutes like he saw me for the weekend. And he wouldn't. He would be so exhausted and I could hear it. And it would be like, he's just checking the box at night. And I let him have it too. I say, listen, if all you have is 15 minutes, you better give me the 15 minutes you got. I better not even hear that you're exhausted. But I know and I understand that you are. But you're building that life expectation for me to change my life. And I need to know that when it's said and done, and those kids are grown and gone, that we put in the work for us because it's going to just be us and our child who will be brand new to the situation. So we're not going to build up some fallacy or some process that wouldn't exist. We need to make it as real and tangible for all parties involved. And I am not going to, I better never feel like I'm last on your list or last in your life. I'm going to accept that I am the bonus mom. I'm going to accept that there are going to be a lot of sporting events and a lot of things that a lot of sacrifices that I'm going to have to make. But I'm not going to be accepting it or feeling a position that I'm last because I bring me to the table, all my resources, all my energy, all my experience, and all my love to the table. And we will not be playing. I'm not signing my life up for last place. We won't be doing that. So you do have to push your way gently, of course, but you're trying to get the buy-in to understand that if the shoe was on the other foot, what is it that you would deserve? What is it that you would want? And just know that you have to make room. You have to make room for this other person because if it's just you and your kids, well, I got something for you. Wait till your children are grown before you interrupt someone else's life then. And even then, be prepared that you still have to make sacrifices if you want somebody there next to you. So join us next week as we present divorce in the form of our title, Single by Force, followed up by Single by Choice, Life After Divorce. What an exciting episode. Any closing thoughts? Our co-host, the real Jabril.
Well, definitely. I mean, you took the words out of my mouth in terms of next week. I can't wait for next week, but this really hit home and hearing from all perspectives. And it just let me know, even when I stayed in that situation, that I'm not a processed piece of fruit and that I am organic and I have value. But the only way that any of us can receive what we deserve is to show
Right.
it. You can't just talk it, you got to show it. And when you say you're great or you say you're this type of man or woman, but if your actions or your attitude doesn't show that, and people won't take you seriously, you might not, you shouldn't even say it. Sometimes you shouldn't even have to say that. Your action, your character, it should show it. Just like it's certain men that certain men won't come up and approach neither one of you because you have this certain shield over you, not by acting like you have an attitude or not by acting like you don't want to be bothered. When certain men know, can't play with her. Or if they try, they don't stay in it and they go mess with a raisin. Because a lot of people want the organic woman or the organic man, but they don't want to pay the price or make the sacrifice to earn that. And you know why? Because deep down inside, they're only a raisin. And you're only going to be able to keep or attract where you are and who you are. And I said that on probably the first 2 episodes of the Purpose and Powerful podcast. So we can't wait to see you next week. It's great seeing you once again, Tanya. You're getting
Great.
closer
Great.
to getting what you deserve.
Yes.
Putting in more time and showing yourself more love. And you got to teach people how to love you based on how you love yourself. Just like Erica has always mentioned, you can tell how people are going to be or treat you based on how they treat their family.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take it even deeper. And I don't think either one of you have thought about it. Men can also tell based on your past relationships and where you are presently, how you would treat yourself and how you deserve to be treated. Not how you want to be treated. Because if you're not taking care of yourself or loving yourself, why you expect somebody to play Prince Charming and come and rescue you?
Right.
You
Right.
get it anyways because you're not doing it for you.
Right.
And if he sees that you're not taking care of you, when you think of a woman, how do you think that you're going to be able to take care of us as a helpmate?
Wow.
Self.
Yeah.
So that's the flip-flop, how they use that in the Bible. The woman is not taking care of herself. How's she going to take care of you or the children, the bonus or the baby that's coming?
Yeah.
She wanted to go to the checkup for herself, limping around and needed to go into the doctor, leaving dishes in the sink. That is, you got to clean up your own house within first. I'm just saying this because it just hit me, and I know it's listeners need to hear this. We're going around looking for the outside when the truth has to be sustained inside first. Then you will attract what you deserve, not what you want. It's always what you deserve. God will not give you what he'll only allow you to have what you deserve at that point because you would mess it up. You got something. It's real. The Real Jabril signing off. We'll see you next week. We enjoyed you. We appreciate you. And all of you listeners, like and subscribe for those of the Purpose and Powerful podcast. See you next week.
Thank you. Have a great night.